This wasn't a match. This wasn't a showcase. This wasn't even chaos. This was a warning, because when Bron Breakker hit Raw and turned Penta and Dragon Lee into human crash test dummies, WWE didn't just give us highlights, they showed us what happens when speed, power, and pure rage collide with lucha royalty. And before anyone says it was just another spear, let's be real for a second. How many men hit spears like that and walk away smiling? Comment real quick, who do you think took the nastier impact, Penta or Dragon Lee? Because from the very first moment Bron Breakker exploded down that ramp, something felt off. Not hyped, not energetic, unhinged. You could feel it in the crowd, you could see it in the eyes of Penta and Dragon Lee, and you could hear it in the silence right before impact. That silence? That's fear. Bron Breakker didn't wrestle like a man trying to win a match. He wrestled like a man trying to erase names from the roster. And what made it worse, WWE knew exactly what they were doing by putting him across from two of the fastest, most athletic, most beloved highflyers on Raw. This wasn't about balance. This was about contrast. Speed versus force. Agility versus inevitability. And inevitability won. Let's talk about that first spear. Because that spear wasn't just brutal, it was personal. Penta barely had time to plant his feet before Bron cut him in half like he was running through air. No hesitation, no setup, just raw acceleration and violence. People love to throw around the word Goldberg-like, but here's the uncomfortable truth: Bron Breakker hits harder than Goldberg ever did. Goldberg exploded forward, Bron detonates. Comment below, is Bron Breakker's spear already the most dangerous move in WWE today? And if you think I'm exaggerating, rewind the clip. Look at the way Penta's body snaps sideways. Look at how the ring shakes. Look at how the crowd gasps instead of cheers. That wasn't excitement. That was shock. Dragon Lee tried to change the pace. He tried to bring rhythm, movement, unpredictability, the exact style that's supposed to neutralize a powerhouse. And for half a second, it worked. That half second? That's all Bron needed. Because when Dragon Lee went airborne, Bron didn't back up. He stepped forward. And that spear mid-motion was one of the most disrespectful things we've seen on Raw in years. Dragon Lee didn't get caught. He got deleted. And let me ask you this: should WWE even allow Bron to spear people out of the air? Because at this point, it's not athletic, it's hazardous. What made this segment special wasn't just the destruction, it was the lack of mercy. Bron didn't slow down after the first spear. He didn't pose. He didn't wait for cheers. He hunted. Every time Penta tried to recover spear, every time Dragon Lee tried to create space spear, every time either man thought they had a window closed. And notice something very important: Bron never looked rushed. That's the scary part. Most power wrestlers rely on momentum. Bron relies on confidence. Confidence that no matter what you do, he's faster. Confidence that no matter how high you fly, he'll reach you. Confidence that no matter how hard you hit, he'll hit harder. Drop a comment: does Bron Breakker feel unstoppable right now, or do you think someone on Raw can realistically slow him down? Now let's talk about Penta specifically, because Penta isn't just another guy. Penta is aura. Penta is presence. Penta is someone who usually demands respect in the ring, and Bron treated him like a speed bump. No hesitation, no intimidation, no acknowledgement. That alone tells you where WWE sees Bron Breakker on the food chain, because when you book someone to run through Penta, not outsmart him, not escape him, but physically overpower him, you're sending a message. That message is, this guy isn't here to climb, he's here to conquer. And Dragon Lee, same story. Dragon Lee represents the future. Bron Breakker represents the end. End of momentum. End of momentum-based offense. End of the idea that speed always wins. Here's a fun one: if Bron Breakker and Gunther collided tomorrow, who are you picking? Because that's the level we're talking about. And what made this segment boil people's blood wasn't just the outcome, it was the aftermath. Bron didn't help anyone up. He didn't check on anyone. He didn't even acknowledge the damage. He stood there breathing heavy, staring at bodies. That stare? That wasn't celebration. That was satisfaction. And here's where things get uncomfortable for the roster. Because Bron Breakker doesn't need a title right now. He needs victims. And WWE seems more than happy to supply them. This wasn't a highlight, this was conditioning. Conditioning the audience to accept that Bron Breakker is different. Conditioning the locker room to fear him. Conditioning future opponents to doubt themselves before the bell even rings. Ask yourself, when was the last time someone debuted on Raw with this much physical authority? Not hype. Not promos. Not vignettes. Authority. And that's why this Spearfest worked. Because it didn't feel choreographed. It didn't feel rehearsed. It felt like a train running through traffic. Now here's the part that fans are already arguing about online. Was this too much? Did WWE bury Penta and Dragon Lee to make Bron look strong? Or did they elevate Bron to a level that makes everyone he beats more valuable? Comment honestly, did this segment help or hurt Penta and Dragon Lee? Because here's the reality, not everyone can survive this kind of spotlight. but the ones who do, they come back different. And if Penta and Dragon Lee rebound from this, if they adjust, adapt, and retaliate, this moment becomes legendary. But if they don't, this becomes the night Bron Breakker officially broke Raw. And that's the brilliance of it. This wasn't closure. This was chapter 1. Bron Breakker doesn't feel like a challenger. He feels like an invasion. And when WWE gives someone that kind of presentation, relentless offense, zero remorse, maximum damage, history tells us one thing: they're not stopping anytime soon. So ask yourself this before you scroll away: who do you sacrifice next? Because sooner or later, someone is stepping in front of that spear thinking they're different. And sooner or later, we'll hear that silence again. If you want, I can dial this even more aggressive. Rewrite it in a shorter 12 to 15 minute version, or add viral clip timestamps and thumbnail hook lines for Ring Rumble. Just tell me. And that silence? That silence is about to become familiar. Because what we witnessed wasn't an outburst, it was a pattern forming in real time. Bron Breakker isn't just stacking spears, he's stacking warnings. And here's what should genuinely worry every single superstar watching from the back. Bron didn't even look tired. Go back and watch his body language. No labored breathing, no shaking arms, no adrenaline dump. That means this wasn't his limit. That was his baseline, which raises a terrifying question: what does Bron Breakker look like when he actually struggles? Drop your thoughts. Have we even seen Bron pushed to his limit yet? Because Penta and Dragon Lee threw speed, precision, and creativity at him, and Bron answered with blunt force trauma. And the crowd reaction said everything. At first, it was shock, then disbelief, then a strange mix of cheers and uncomfortable laughter, the kind people do when they're watching something they're not sure they're supposed to enjoy. That's how monsters are made. WWE has tried for years to manufacture dominance. They've tried music changes, lighting effects, catchphrases, nicknames. None of that worked like this. Because dominance isn't told, it's felt. And every spear Bron delivered felt heavier than the last. Let's talk about the psychology here. Most wrestlers slow down after one big impact. Bron sped up. That tells you everything you need to know about his mindset. Pain doesn't discourage him, it energizes him. Every time Penta writhed on the mat, Bron didn't step back. He stepped closer. Every time Dragon Lee rolled away, Bron cut off the angle. That's predator behavior. And predators don't care how popular you are. They don't care how flashy you are. They don't care how long you've been doing this. They care about one thing: control. Quick question: did Bron look more dangerous before or after the crowd started cheering him? Because something shifted when the audience realized they weren't watching a match, they were watching a takeover. This is where things get even more interesting. Bron Breakker didn't need a microphone. He didn't need a catchphrase. He didn't need to point at a WrestleMania sign. His message was physical. And that message was loud. None of you are safe. That includes veterans. That includes champions. That includes people who think size, experience, or reputation will protect them. Spoiler: it won't. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Why Penta? Why Dragon Lee? Because WWE chose two men who represent movement. Movement is supposed to beat power. Movement is supposed to frustrate monsters. Movement is supposed to expose big men. Bron erased that myth in under 10 minutes. That's not accidental booking. That's intentional destruction. Comment below: was this the most dominant segment on Raw this year so far? Because it's hard to remember another moment where two elite talents looked so completely overwhelmed. And here's the part that's making fans angry, and they should be angry. Bron didn't earn this through struggle. He didn't claw his way up. He walked in and took it. That rubs people the wrong way. It feels unfair. It feels rushed. It feels like favoritism. But that frustration, that resentment, that's exactly what WWE wants. Because when the audience is divided, the character wins. Bron Breakker isn't supposed to be comfortable. He's supposed to make you uneasy. And the best villains or anti-heroes aren't the ones who cheat. They're the ones who are right. Right now, Bron is right. No one has stopped him. No one has matched his intensity. No one has punished him for his recklessness. So why would he slow down? Here's something to think about: should someone have stepped in to stop this, or was it right to let it happen? Because authority figures letting Bron run wild adds another layer. It tells us that management either can't control him, or doesn't want to. Both options are dangerous. Now imagine being in that locker room. You're watching this on a monitor. You hear the thud of the spear. You see bodies fold. And then you realize something terrifying. You're next. Not because you challenged him. Not because you provoked him. But because eventually, there's no one else left. That's the trajectory Bron Breakker is on. And here's the most unsettling part of all. He enjoys it. Not in a cartoonish way. Not with exaggerated laughter. In a quiet, controlled, almost surgical way. That smile after the final spear. That wasn't arrogance. That was certainty. Certainty that this is his ring now. Let's stir the pot a little. Does Bron Breakker feel like a future world champion, or a future problem WWE won't be able to control? Because history tells us that characters like this don't just dominate opponents, they dominate narratives. Sooner or later, someone is going to stand across from Bron and refuse to back down. And when that happens, either we witness the birth of a legend, or the collapse of one. And that's why this segment matters. This wasn't filler. This wasn't a throwaway highlight. This was the foundation of something volatile. Raw didn't just get more intense. It got more dangerous. So remember this moment. Remember the silence. Remember the fear. Remember the way Penta and Dragon Lee hit the mat and didn't get back up. Because years from now, when Bron Breakker is standing over another fallen star, people will look back and say, this is where it started. And until someone proves otherwise, that's